What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripes show. Got a lot to talk about today. Spring training games have actually happened. We've got the WBC coming up. Scott, what's going on?
Not much, man. I'm excited to watch these guys play. A lot of young guys that we're starting to see. I'm getting very excited for Volpe mania. I think this kid's the real deal. I really hope that the Yankees, grow some balls and play this kid from day one, because I think he's going to be good, especially after just seeing him for 2 games.
Yeah, exactly. Let's base everything on 2 games. I was on the NYY recaps. We did with Derek. We did a live stream Friday night. I think that was Friday night. And one of the questions was about Volpe, just the shortstop situation, like Volpe, Peraza, IKF, and it would be shocking. The more we were talking about it, it would be shocking if Volpe starts the season as the opening day shortstop, just based on how the Yankees have operated over the past 2 decades with prospects.
Yeah, how's that worked out for them?
I'm not defending it. I'm not saying that what they've done is correct. Okay, I know we've been teasing the Brian Cashman history episode for weeks and weeks at this point. I promise you, it is almost through production. It's almost done.
It's really good. It's really good. It's worth the wait. It's very good. The video is very good. The audio is very good. Some storytelling, some suspense. There's music. It's very good.
We have to re-record a few things, and my voice has not sounded great over the past week, so I didn't want to re-record it and have a listener be like, this is clearly two different days that you're recording this. I wanted to at least semi sound the same. My point was, I've learned a lot from that, and I've learned a lot at how Brian Cashman and the organization has operated with prospects. It's not good, okay? It is not good. And one thing they do is they slow play the shit out of their prospects.
I mean, you could argue that the slow play has already been sped up with him. I mean, he was in AAA last year. The guy has progressed through the minor leagues relatively quickly. He's not an old cat. He's a young guy, and maybe this is the time where they buck the system a little bit, because when you look at what the options are, it's not really. I think it's super interesting because he's playing in different positions, and Boone's even talking about getting him some time at third. So clearly they are moving him around to see where he's comfortable, where they believe that he could get some more reps. So I think that's encouraging as well, to see where they.
That's also hedging.
Yeah, well, it's you want to know what you have, right? But it's also like this. Some could argue that this is a similar. If you start doing that, then you're not really allowing this guy to develop.
No, that's bullshit.
Hey, people will say
because listen, the reality of the situation is the Yankees infield has, even though there's a lot of bodies, there's a lot of uncertainty. Josh Donaldson at third base is a huge question mark. DJ LeMahieu, 100%. We'll see, right? Like, he's supposed to be the roving infielder, but we're still counting on him being healthy to be able to do that. Gleyber Torres had such an up and down season last year that, yeah, he's going to be the starting second baseman. But what if he sucks? What if he has another August to start the season? You're not going to trot him out there every day. And then you've got shortstop. That's a battle right now in spring training. So there's a lot of uncertainty. It's smart for the Yankees to play all of these guys at multiple positions, because you do not know where you're going to need the manpower. If you have a need at second base and it's May 15th and Volpe's tearing up AAA and he played second base, he's been playing second base in AAA, he played it in spring training, call him up and put him at second base.
I'm fine with that. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that at all. I think that him as an infielder, if he's got the ability to play different positions, then they should see what they have. Manny Machado re-signed with the Padres, long-term deal,
$1 billion.
Yeah, long-term deal. So third base is open. Third base is open long-term. That's not the Volpe's not like he doesn't look fleet of foot. I mean, he stole a couple bags, but the kid looks like he's going to be a little thicker than your average shortstop, I would say. So maybe third base for him could be a long-term home. I don't think it's crazy. And I think if you're able to, if he's able to play those positions, let's find out, put him through the ringer in spring training. But I also think he deserves a fair shot at shortstop.
No, of course he's a shortstop, but If you have need at other positions, put him there, and then he can always move back to shortstop if you need it. Or if your shortstop situation with Peraza or whoever is okay, and your third base situation is bad, then call him up for third base. Before we continue, I know you wanted to talk about Bevan running the Boston Marathon and the money that she's raising for for the Ethan Lindbergh Foundation. So you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely wanted to talk about this. This is something Bevan has been, my wife Bevan. If I think a bunch of people who have come to events and people who've been listening to the show for a while obviously know and have heard me talk about her. But also our son, who was born in 2017 up at Boston Children's Hospital. He has a heart condition called HLHS, hypoplastic left heart syndrome. Kid went through a few early heart surgeries. He's kicking ass. He's playing basketball. He's gearing up for T-ball again. I'm very excited. I did hear some unfortunate news yesterday, actually. He's going to be on the Orioles, which isn't the worst thing in the world. It could be way worse.
There's a lot.
But it's an AL East team. That's not, it doesn't make me happy, but I'm not.
But honestly, if I'm picking one AL East
I would
team
pick them.
for him to be. Yeah, it's
for
them.
sure. So that's a little something, but he's got a nice short swing. Good, quick to the ball. We got to work on some
righty
other
or
things.
Lefty.
He's a righty, but
I've still changed that.
I'm
There's
trying.
Still time.
I'm working on it. Getting tips from dad at this point is, sometimes hit or miss. But yeah, she's running the Boston Marathon. She's a lunatic. She's running the Boston Marathon coming up in April. We're going up there for a few days for her to run this thing, and she's raising money. She got a bib from a foundation that's very, very close to our hearts, no pun intended, but the Ethan Lindbergh Foundation. Ethan Lindbergh Foundation they're based out of Illinois, out of the Chicago area, but they have ties to Boston Children's Hospital as well. I have a very complicated relationship with the city of Boston. I can't stand their sports teams, but I love their medical professionals. And so we're raising money for the Ethan Lindbergh Foundation for Bevan running this race. And I'd love to see the Bronx Pinstripes contingent come out and help support. We're going to be doing our part as well. We've talked about this event that we're going to be doing in May, and we're going to put all proceeds, all money that is left over from this. We're not going to take a dime from it. We're going to pay for tickets, pay for a new custom T-shirt that I've been waiting to kind of design for a while now. For this event, we have, I think, 200 tickets, might have a little bit more, might have some flexibility for more, but we're going to donate all proceeds to the Ethan Lindbergh Foundation from this event. So I'm very excited about that. And would love for, the listeners of this show to support my wife and support the Ethan Lindbergh Foundation, which really is just, they provide housing, housing in Boston around the children's hospital is few and far between. Like, I don't care how much money you have or how much money you don't have. It's just that there is not very much availability. Bottom line, it's a very difficult thing. That was one of the hardest things for us. Ethan Lindbergh Foundation had an apartment that was actually at Fenway. So I've told stories on this show where I wore Yankees gear every single day. And I would at some points walk back to the apartment and I would be going against traffic of the Red Sox game that was let out. And I was very disappointed with the lack of shit talking from the people walking out, but there wasn't very much. So we were in the heart of the beast, and but they gave us an apartment that was very reasonably priced at that point, so that we could have a place to go back to, and it made all the difference. It really did. We actually ended up inviting two people that we met who also had a child at the hospital to live with us for a few weeks, just because we had another room, and really just a big community effort. So yeah, we're gonna donate the proceeds here, and I'm gonna put the link to Bevan's marathon fundraising in my Twitter bio, and I'll tweet it out as well. But would love for you guys to help and donate to her running this race and raising money for this charity, Ethan Lindbergh Foundation. They're amazing. They really are. They're absolutely amazing. And it would mean a lot to me. So I appreciate that. And I know we've, before COVID took over spring training, unfortunately, and derailed us for that 2020 season, we had a massive event, 400 some tickets, that was going to be, we were donating the tickets to Children's Hospital in upstate, just in Westchester County. And unfortunately, we just couldn't do it. Obviously, you can't have kids who are and family members who are also at a hospital go out into an area where there's a lot of people at that time. So that was unfortunately derailed. Definitely want to get back on the wagon with some really positive things that we can do for the community, positive things that we can do for raising funds for families that need it. And this is a great opportunity. And my wife's psychotic.
Awesome.
She's going to be running a marathon. She's crazy.
Does she run it? What's the longest race she's run?
She ran a half years and years ago.
Cool. She's been doing all the training though.
She's been doing the training. She's been, so, she'll disappear for hours at a time on the weekends to get those long ones in. And she's grinding now, just getting ready for it, doing hills, and making sure she's prepped for it.
A lot of listeners are probably familiar with the New York Marathon, which happens usually happens in November, I think.
Yeah, it's in the fall.
Yeah. The Boston Marathon always happens in the spring. It happens in April, usually mid-April, and it's always on a Monday. And it's Marathon Monday in Boston. It's like it's a holiday. Not President's Day. I forget the actual holiday.
I don't
know.
For us, it's the Marathon Day.
It's 99% of the city of Boston is off on that Monday, and it just takes over the city. I lived in Boston for a number of years after college. It was always a really cool day. It goes right through the heart of the city. Everyone lines up. They watch the race. You go to a bar, you drink. It's the morning on a Monday. It's just a really cool. And another cool thing about it is the Red Sox always play an 11 a.m. baseball game that day. I just looked it up. They're playing the Angels. It's an 11 o'clock start. And I always thought that was just like another cool aspect of it. It's like there's multiple sporting events going on, and it's still the morning. So yeah, really cool that Bevan's doing that. Great foundation. And it's Patriots Day. Yes, that's what it was. The movie Patriots Day.
Yeah.
Mocky Mock. Really cool. So yeah, go check out.
And I know the irony here. Yankees podcast, a lot in New York. We don't like Boston. Yeah, this is different. This is different. This is people helping people.
We like humans.
We like humans. There's still a Northeast edge. Like those guys up there, we don't have to like their sports teams, but there's actually a lot of similarities in the way that the family first, a lot of good people up there, even though they have bad taste in baseball teams.
One of my stances as if I become commissioner of baseball one day is that there's an 11 o'clock baseball game every single day. It's a different team every day, but there's always an 11 a.m. game throughout the league. It's because nothing else is going on at that time.
It's West Coast. That's West Coast vibes. That was one of my, if I were to move to the West Coast, I think like one of the reasons I would move to the West Coast is so that I could watch football and other sports while eating breakfast. I think it sounds amazing, and I've done it, and it was amazing.
Logan's given the hell no because he's still a child and stays up until 3 o'clock in the morning. Listen, Logan, when you're an old ass freaking man like Scott and I,
like your dad,
you're not gonna want to stay up until 3 a.m. anymore. And breakfast baseball is fun. I remember the London game. Remember the London games? Yeah. They started early in the morning. We had a watch party in New York City. We were there. We were at the bar. There was like 25 people there. It was hot as shit that weekend in New York City, and it was like 10 o'clock in the morning. We were getting hammered at a bar watching baseball. What's not fun about that?
No, getting drunk early is fun. And that the event, I'm pretty sure the game in May is a 1 o'clock start. So we will be having breakfast beers.
Breakfast beers. You can get a breakfast taco at the Taco Bell in the dugout.
I feel like I lost
half hour in the bathroom.
I lost a bet 2 years ago that I do need to pay up. I'm a man of my word, and I need to pay up this bet. And it's not a Red Sox game where it was supposed to be, but I'm supposed to identify someone as my daddy and shotgun a beer in front of the entire Section 205. So I will be doing that as well.
Oh, gonna look forward.
I gotta pay out my bet.
All right, let's talk about. So there been a handful of games since we last recorded. Some guys that have looked really good. Let's start with Clarke Schmidt. He was featuring his new cutter. Really impressive outing from Clarke Schmidt. It's like, okay, yes, it's the first outing of the season. The hitters are working on their timing, all the caveats you want to throw. But it was still an exciting outing for Clarke Schmidt on a guy that might be a pivotal piece now with how the injuries in the rotation have shaken out.
Clarke, I put in this in the chat. I think one of the guys that I'm most excited for is Clarke Schmidt. And I've made the comps in the past, and I don't like to bring up his name, and this has to do with the bet too, but he reminds me of how Sonny Gray pitches and how he, used to get a lot of guys out early in his career. He does. He's got a lot of similarities. He's got the curveball, the break your knees curveball. He's got a plus slider. He's got, a decent fastball that will top out mid 90s. Now he's adding this cutter. I think that, one of the big reasons he was struggling last year, late in the season, is he couldn't get guys out with a pitch. He had to be perfect. He had to dot corners. He's talked about this, and he, unfortunately would leak it over the plate. And if you make any mistakes when you're that guy, you don't have your go-to out pitch. You don't have as much variation off of that fastball. It's a problem to strike guys out, especially if you can't go to that hard breaking stuff. If there are guys on base, like there's a lot of, situations where you can't always go to that 12-6 curveball, given a situation, especially crunch time in the playoffs. He adds a cutter now. And if he has confidence in this cutter, which it's seemingly from all the things he's saying, from the, what we saw early on, 2 innings, I understand that, but there's confidence in there. And if he can give some variation on that fastball with a cut fastball, which will be another opportunity for him to get in on the hands of lefties, and just to change the eyes a little bit with a fastball, 2 variations of a fastball, is really a big deal for him. He's got the kitchen sink. So now that he's adding another variation of a fastball, I think it's a big deal from him. And I think it gives him another pitch that he can get guys out in, that he can rely on. So confidence in this pitch is definitely something we need to keep an eye on, keep watching it. But he's got all the tools to be a very good starter in this league. And I would love for him to come and just grab this number 5 spot, put Domingo Germán in the bullpen as a swing guy. We've seen him. We know what he is. Throw him in the bullpen. He could be a number of different things. Clarke Schmidt, I think with this added pitch is definitely one to watch, and I think really exciting. So, kudos to the pitching coach staff as well that, identified this as something that he could throw, and then, and now they're executing upon it.
The crazy thing is Clarke Schmidt's 27 years old.
Yeah, wow. He got old fast.
I know. Well, he's not a prospect anymore, and he's always an older prospect.
He went to college,
he went to college, so he came out. He was drafted later.
Yeah,
but it's like he's been one of those young pitching prospects in the Yankees system for a handful of years now. So now you're 27 years old. You're supposed to be in the prime of your career as a starting pitcher when you're, entering 27 to 30, 31 years old. That's your baseball prime.
Yep.
Is late 20s. And that's what we're approaching. We're entering for Clarke Schmidt now. And he has an opportunity, like you said, to win a starting job. I'm not saying this is his last shot, because it's likely not his last shot, right? But this is his best shot.
This is the shot. This is the one. And I think he understands that as well. I was, just watching a post game, or, how they cut to Meredith after a guy is playing, and they'll talk to him in the clubhouse. I don't know. It just feels like it's clicking in his head that he understands that this is his opportunity. Yep. Don't look, you can't sit around and say that there's going to be another opportunity. This is it. And you know what? He didn't end the season well. He faltered in the end of the season, and it hurt the team. And I think he understands that and took that to heart, and took that with stride, and worked on. He understood that he needed another pitch. He needed something else to get guys out with 2 strikes. And seemingly this cutter could be that pitch. So I'm excited. I really am excited to watch him throw. He's one of those guys it's fun to watch pitch, just because he throws so many different things. And that 12-6 is such a good pitch.
His curveball was always graded as his best pitch. The cutter was averaging mid 2600s on RPMs and topped out at mid 2700s. And if you compared that to one of the best cutters in the game, Corbin Burnes, that's in line with the RPMs that he's featured over the past couple seasons. Not saying Clarke Schmidt, Corbin Burnes equal sign. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But it's like, if we're just trying to evaluate a new pitch from Clarke Schmidt, looks like he definitely found something. So yeah, one of the top guys to watch. Him and Volpe, another top guy to watch. Awesome debut. Got everyone excited.
Real quick on Schmidt,
Sunday.
Guys, if we could look this up quickly, where is his fastball? The cutter I'm seeing in the notes is at 92.5 average. He's topped out at around 94. Where's his fastball? I'm just curious as to what the difference
velocity wise, you're saying?
Yeah, because if there's a break in velocity,
you don't necessarily need a.
You don't, but I'm just curious to know if there is or not. We could move forward.
So Volpe, his spring debut, spring training with the big league club debut, 2 for 4, and he played shortstop. He stole second and third, and he had a great day. And I was reading a quote afterwards from, I can't remember if it was Mendoza or Boone, talking about just like the energy he plays with has like been palpable, even in just like regular drills and everything, just in the regular practices. Like he's just always going at 100% energy, and other players are picking up on that and noticing that. And he's probably trying to prove himself and show himself. Obviously, this is a shot to get in front of all of the big league coaches and everything. So he's not going to half-ass it, but that's something that the coaches definitely have noticed already. And it's been a week and a half of spring training.
Yeah. I mean, young guy, you expect to bring energy. You expect that guy to be, that youthful exuberance. So excited to hear that. He's good, man. He's got all the tools, and people have not wavered in the way that they've evaluated him. That's exciting. So he really does feel like the real deal.
Do you know
even
what,
if he
what
doesn't
is
start,
kind of reassuring?
What's that?
So one thing that's reassuring, I guess, if you can take prospect rankings with a grain of salt, but he's steadily been climbing the prospect top 100 boards for the past 2 seasons.
Yep.
Whereas you've seen someone like Dominguez go up and down. He was super high when he debuted into the minor leagues, and was that 2019?
Nobody had seen him in everyday action.
Right. And he was ranked super high, and then he dropped a bit. And I think he's 47th right now, if I remember correctly, Jasson Dominguez, which is still top 50 in Major League Baseball. Awesome. But he's gone up and down. Volpe has just like taken steps up the ladder with every ranking, which they usually do twice a year. That might mean nothing, or it might mean that what scouts are seeing is like reaffirming each time they redo their rankings, like, yep, I was right about this guy, moving him up another couple spots.
I think that's exactly what it is. I mean, the guys who make those rankings, that's their reputation. That's what they do for a living. So the fact that a guy just stays steady and continues to climb, that's exactly what they're doing. It's reaffirmed every time he's moved up. He's shown that he can compete at that level. And I mean, he's knocking on the door. So, whether he starts at the season at shortstop or not, he'll be at AAA worst case, right? If he's tearing up AAA, I don't know how you keep him there. Really.
How many at-bats did he get in AAA last year?
Not a ton. I know he was at the end of the year. He got out there, but
they're going to want to get him more AAA at bats. I know they're going to want to get him more AAA at bats, and at the very least, they're going to do what they did with Gleyber Torres, which is wait until early May to call him up to fuck with his service time.
Fine.
Okay.
If they do that, then be prepared to call him up when it's available. Does it matter for the Yankees as much in the first month of the season? Probably not. They're a good team. They can deal with it. So if that's the case,
the only situation it matters if there's injuries in the infield, and you're forced to start him at the beginning of the season because maybe DJ's not ready to go, or if Donaldson's banged up, and you actually legitimately just need the body.
Okay. That said, you better be up at that point. This kid does not belong in AAA. He just doesn't.
99 plate appearances at AAA. So it's not nothing.
That's decent.
It's not a lot.
Amount. It's a decent. Yeah, but
it's not a lot.
You'll hear a lot of people talk about AAA not being. AA is where you see
it's 20 games. Was that 20 games he played? About 20 games in the minors in AAA. I mean, yeah, about 20 games. It's a month of baseball in AAA. It's not nothing, but it's not a lot.
There's a lot of good talent in AA too. So you see that jump.
Yes, there's a lot of good talent in AA, but AAA is the biggest jump. They always say is double to AAA.
A lot of journeymen in AAA.
Okay, but journeymen are for a lot of these prospects, they're not as talented, but they've played in the majors sometimes. Pitchers know how to get hitters out. They can expose weaknesses better than AA pitchers can. That's something that those guys have probably not faced, is when they get to AAA. And just to close the loop on the prospect stuff, Volpe's at 5, Dominguez is at 47, and Peraza is at 52. So for all intents and purposes, 3 guys in the top 50 out of the top 100 on MLB Pipeline. And they've been playing different positions. Volpe has played, obviously, short. What the lineup's out today. He's starting. Where is Volpe starting today, guys? And I know Peraza has played multiple positions, so their Boone is already shifting them around.
No Volpe today.
No Volpe today.
We get blessed with IKF playing shortstop.
IKF is shortstop. Peraza is playing where?
He's also riding the pine.
Oh, okay. I thought there.
There's a lot of starters. Yeah, a lot of
the veterans.
Veteran
A lot
guys.
of veterans, I guess.
So yeah, Boone had said
starters,
Volpe.
Veteran guys.
Boone had said Volpe. He's planning on getting me at third base coming up.
Yeah, and that's interesting. You know, him at third base. That's a spot that, in theory, could be up for grabs. You know, no one.
Yeah.
Josh Donaldson ain't holding anybody back. Right.
Best shape of his life at age
right.
66.
Congratulations. I mean, that's a feat by itself. But yeah, and then real
He
quick,
said, so I was
put a quick cap on the. Let's cap out two things. Let's cap out the Clarke Schmidt. The difference. So 95.8. So 96 miles an hour on his four seam, and 93, 94. So a couple miles per hour difference on the fastball. That's awesome. You know, if he's repeating that arm slot, like that's tough to pick up.
There was I was reading an article. Josh Donaldson dedicated himself this winter. He started his workouts earlier, and he brought a new intensity and focus to his workout program.
Cool. Got to be focused. Got to be intense, especially if it's new.
He heard the noise at the end of the season. He said, "I heard the noise."
Heard the noise. He felt the noise. He's like, "I'm old."
Do you remember Brian
Cashman's
press conference when he was talking about Donaldson, and he said he believes that he can be the player that they thought they traded for, and he said part of it was due to injury, his underperformance.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, how can you bank on an injury-prone guy who's now older,
right,
staying healthy and regaining his previous form? So to your point of third base is up for grabs, yeah, it should be up for grabs. I don't care that Josh Donaldson is making $24 million or whatever he's making.
That is not a consideration. It should not be a consideration, because if he's not playing well, then. But the thing with Donaldson, whether he's good at the plate or not, he's still a vacuum at third base. So that's the hard part to pull him out, because he is such a good defender that he does help you, very much so. That's a position that is, obviously there's a lot of action at third base, and he hasn't gotten worse at playing defense.
Yeah.
That's what makes it difficult for him to be overtaken in that way, because, the Yankees have bats, but his play at third base is invaluable.
If you're potentially talking about a rookie at short, be it Volpe or Peraza, having a rock solid third baseman is also really important.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see him traditionally, he's going to be playing, everybody's going to be lining up, in their traditional positions too. So we're going to see him shine a little bit. I think it's going to be a good thing.
And then a couple other takeaways so far from the games. The Martian, Jasson Dominguez, hit a bomb in his first game, and everyone wanted to anoint him the starting left fielder.
Why not? Let the kids play.
I don't have a good answer. Why not?
Let the kids play. I'm totally
because Aaron hits.
Oh, dude, I would. First of all, that's not happening. He's where was he last year? Single. Was he in? Was he low A or did he get to high A? He was in.
No, I think he got like 19 at bats in Double A.
Oh yeah, then at the end of the season he got Double A. So actually, not that far off. There have been guys that have been jumped from Double A to.
Assuming he plays well in Double A this year, he'll go to Triple A at some point later in the season, and we'll be talking about Jasson Dominguez the same way we're talking about Volpe this year. We'll be talking about Jasson Dominguez next year.
Let me ask you a question. Didn't someone jump from Double A, a position player, jump from Double A? And I'm pretty sure this guy had a hell of a spring training. We all thought he was going to be
Mr. March,
the guy, Mr. Greg Bird.
Yep.
Jump
straight from Double A to the majors.
Hey, so you know what? If left field, if Aaron Hicks not doing it.
That's your example.
Not looking. Yeah,
that's your example of
I'm just saying precedent. It's been done before. Precedent. Okay.
That was 2015.
Yeah, that's crazy. But there have been 5 games in Double A. Okay, that's not a lot of games. So you start there, tears it up. Let's say he's tearing it up in Double A. Probably not an available.
If Dominguez is tearing it up,
yeah,
in Double A,
go up to Triple A,
and it's
for
June
1st.
Okay,
it's
June 1st.
Vibes.
It's June 1st, and Aaron Hicks is getting booed off the field again. And Oswaldo Cabrera, unfortunately, has just been exposed at the plate. He's kind of lost. I still don't think it's a possibility that they call him Jasson Dominguez for left field.
Because of the New York Yankees? Do you think other? Let me ask you a question. Do you think other clubs would do it?
I think depends on the club and the situation they're in, right? If you're a bottom of the league team and you're in rebuilding mode, maybe. Or
I would actually argue the opposite, because if you're a team that is bottom fielder, you don't want to expose
you want to save the prospect and get the most value out of him so service time wise.
Well, and also you want to develop them to increase their value as much as possible.
I don't know, if you're the Dodgers, you do it and then you find yourself a new all-star because you're the Dodgers. But the Yankees, they just I want to see it. I'll believe it when I see it.
Do you remember when Gary Sanchez, I know we're not supposed to say his name, but Gary Sanchez came up and every time when he came to the major leagues, he had a power barrage. Mm-hmm. We didn't see the power from Gary Sanchez in the minor leagues that he came up to.
Yes,
the major
we
leagues
did.
Not to that extent. And why is that the case? You could make
baseballs.
You could make an argument that you could make an argument that Jasson Dominguez will see better pitches in the major leagues than he will in AAA or AA. You could make that argument.
Pitches.
There are
Why did Gleyber Torres' power suddenly increase? Juiced baseballs.
He's going to see a lot more fastballs in the major leagues. He's going to see a lot more balls over the plate because guys are going to want to attack him and not the actual seasoned veteran professionals in the lineup who have put on tape. You could make an argument that Jasson Dominguez will get better pitches over the plate in the major leagues than he will in the minor leagues. You can make that argument.
Do you realize Dominguez is only 5'10"? He's like 5'10",
Yeah. How tall is Mike Trout?
He is 6'2".
No, he's not.
I'm putting my money on 6'2".
No.
Mike Trout's big.
No, he's not.
Mike Trout's big.
He's not tall.
Okay. Anyway.
He's on the nose, 6'2".
He's not 6'2". That's a lie.
Okay. They do always exaggerate a little bit.
He's 6 foot.
Okay.
Maybe.
So if you're listing Dominguez at 5'10", is he really 5'8"?
Who gives a shit how tall a baseball player is?
I don't, because two of the best hitters in the sport are Aaron Judge and Jose Altuve, the tallest and the shortest.
It makes
care.
No difference.
I'm literally
all over the
just
spectrum.
talking about it, the fact that he's short. It's a comment.
I wouldn't say that's
out
short.
There.
That's not short. 5'10" is not
short. For a Major League Baseball player, 5'10" is short. For a human, for an average man, no. I think average height is 5'9". But 5'10" is above average. Congratulations, Jasson Dominguez. You're above average height in the world.
He's
in the world of Major League Baseball, you're below average.
Kirby Puckett.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Kirby Puckett. There's your comp.
And
who the fuck is Kirby Puckett?
Who was the little person pinch hitter?
Don't say little person. These people.
I can't say the other word.
He's 5'10". He's not a little. Why are you comparing him to people that are not 5'10"?
Who was the little person they had a pinch hitter for the strike zone back in like the 50s or something?
That was like
I can't say the M word.
I have no idea.
The 20s.
Yeah, it was like a stunt.
Yeah, it was a stunt. Okay.
He's 5'10".
That's the shortest professional baseball player of all time.
Luis Arraez, 5'10". Great, thank you. By the way, the best meme of the offseason so far is Altuve on the big bags, on the new bags where he's just like an ant. It's hilarious.
So good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
No, you're right, though. It's like height does not matter because Jose Altuve is 5'6", and he's one of the best hitters in the sport, and Aaron Judge is 6'7", and he's one of the best hitters in the sport. And then you've got Mike Trout, who's probably the average height in the sport, and he's one of the best hitters in the sport. So no, it doesn't matter. It's just I was just commenting. Jasson Dominguez, 5'10". He's going to get more time in AA. He's going to tear it up in the minors this year, and everyone's going to be saying, why isn't Jasson Dominguez starting left field? Because our OPS of our starting left fielders is like 612. Let's get a real hitter out there in left field, and Jasson Dominguez will still be riding the freaking minor league buses.
Let me tell you what, he's in AA starting the season. He's really not that far away from the major leagues. If things don't go well in left field,
that's one level away. You got to do one level.
Or 0 levels away if you're Greg Bird. But there is a very real possibility that if he's tearing up in the minor leagues and left field is deficient, that there's a possibility that he were to come up. I'm not saying it's out of the question for this year. It's not.
This might
because of the need.
This might be a false fact, but I want to know if this is true. So if Ilya and Logan could do some Googling on this, I believe the Major League Baseball player that spent the least amount of time in the minors was John Olerud. John Olerud, I believe, had the least amount of games played or at-bats or something in the minors before getting called up to then play in the majors. Maybe it's not ever, but it's probably like the best player to have the least amount of time. I don't know if that's
Juan Soto was up when he was like 15 years old. Andrew Jones was one of the
hitting home runs in the World Series when he was 18, 19 years old. Yeah.
I'm looking at John Olerud right now. He doesn't have any minor league stats, except for he played in AAA with Boston in 2005 at the end of his career.
So he didn't play any minor league games. When was he drafted?
He was drafted. Oh, that's a good way of doing this. He was drafted in the third round of the 1989 MLB draft, and he made his debut 1989 with Toronto.
Wow.
He's one of the best. He's not one of the best. He was a great pure hitter. Great pure hitter. Great defender.
He was a great player throughout the 90s. Yeah. Fantastic player. Never spent a day in the minors. So it can happen.
Never wore a baseball hat either.
A helmet. Great Ricky Henderson story, which is probably made up. All right, let's talk about Luis Severino, who made his first outing of the spring Monday against the Tigers. He threw 45 pitches, 30 of them were strikes. He touched 97.7 miles an hour with the fastball, but he was not happy about his slider. He said, I need to work on that particular pitch right now. It's just staying in the middle a lot. I need to work more on the shape and get it to the corners. So I believe one of the spring training awards we were looking for is just working on his arm strength, just working on his stuff. Luis Severino, just working on his stuff.
Which checks out. He should be just working on his stuff. I could give a shit what the results are for Severino.
Sevy entering the final year of his deal. He signed that 4-year, $40 million with the 5th-year option back in the spring of 2019. He has pitched 120 innings so far in that deal, which means the Yankees have paid him $333,000 per inning pitched on that deal. Probably not what they signed up for. He talked about how this is his family. This is the only team he has ever played for. This is where he wants to be. I hope he has a great season, contract year, and he forces the Yankees to sign him. However, it's not been a good track record for the Yankees re-signing these pitchers who are entering the free agent market at this time. You obviously look at James Paxton, Jameson Taillon, both with injury question marks like Severino has, who they had in this time period, had solid seasons, and then the Yankees let them walk. Montes is another one who's going to just be lost. Obviously, he's going to be lost to injury. Montes is probably going to get one of those contracts. I don't feel the need to say his name correctly because he does not pitch for the Yankees.
It's not his fault. He's the last person I blame.
Yeah,
and
there's too many other guys I need to figure out their names.
From what the surgery was, it was a cleanup. It was a scope. No structural damage in the shoulder is what they're reporting. Obviously, they botched the diagnosis in the first place when they were evaluating what was wrong with the arm. But that said, if that is the case, if it was a scope and a cleanup, then there is a much higher percentage chance that he is back before the playoffs in last month of the season, end of August, where he could contribute before. Yeah, I think the only way that he contributes this season is if he's back before the playoffs and actually can show that he can contribute.
Yeah,
so that's something. That is something.
Ilya made this point in chat a couple days ago. Frankie Montes is going to be the Yankees' deadline acquisition 2 years in a row.
Ooh,
it's big.
A good one. Yeah, it's a good point.
Big. So it's just I would be surprised, honestly, if the Yankees re-sign Severino after this year just because of the injuries he's gone through. I hope he has a big season and he's got a lot of bidders on the free agent market. But, yeah, the Yankees don't have a track record at re-signing these guys.
No, they don't. But this is probably another reason why, not throwing the WBC. I know the Yankees didn't want him to. They want him to be healthy. But, honestly, Severino should be focused on the season, getting ready for the season, at the proper speed, making sure that he's not pushing things too much, making sure that he's adequately ready for the season, because not only is it a big year for him as a Yankee, it's a big year for him and his family, for his career, because of the contract that's coming up after this year. So he needs to show. He needs to put some tape down and go back to shit, what year was it when he was the best pitcher in baseball
18.
for the first half of the year?
2018.
5 years ago now. Show that tape of the five year ago Luis Severino, and I hope he does, because if he's the number 3 starter and he's that guy, then goddamn, do the Yankees have a hell of a rotation.
Yeah, because, I mean, in the 120 innings, his stats have been really good. He's got a 2.85 ERA. It's a 140 ERA plus, 3.43 FIP in that time. His whip is under 1. It's only been 120 innings in 4 seasons.
The Yankees have the ability, or if we're looking at potential here, best number 3 starter in baseball. By far the best number 4 starter in baseball.
Yeah, what was that article that ranked the Yankees rotation number 1?
And possibly with Clarke Schmidt and his new cutter, the best number 5 starter in baseball. And then you could argue that 1 and 2 are up there also.
What about number 4?
I said it. You were talking, but I said it. Nestor Cortes, best number 4 in baseball.
Oh, yeah. Well, but Nestor Cortes is the number 1.
Right, but I'm going to put him in number 4 for this argument because it's better.
Where does the Yankees' number 1 starter rank among number 1s in baseball?
Well, yeah, that was the final thing I said, was that the number 1 and 2 guys you could argue are at the top of the league as well.
You could argue.
Yes,
the Yankees have. There's a chance if everything goes well.
It doesn't all have to go great either. It has to go.
No, I'm saying
it's a higher percentage. Like, they've put themselves in a good position. It's not like they're like, oh, this guy has to have the best year of his career, because that's happened in the past. We're not in that situation.
They could have 4 top 40 starting pitchers in baseball between Cole, Rodon, and Cortes and Severino. All 4 of those guys could be in the top 40. 40 might not sound great, but that's among 30 teams times 5+ starters. That's a crap ton of starters. So if you're in the top, you got 4 guys in the top 40. That's pretty freaking awesome. Or 4 guys in the top 50.
And that's why
really good.
That's why I really hope that we continue to see progression and he does win this job, because Clarke Schmidt being we just said he's 27 years old. He's not a young guy anymore, but he's a new guy into the rotation. He has the ability to take that leap and be a very good starter. So, you look at him as a number 5 and like, that's fantastic. It really is. I don't want to see Domingo Germán there. I really don't. I don't need to see a 4.5 ERA there. Clarke Schmidt has the ability, I think, to pitch to a low to mid 3 ERA.
You mentioned the WBC. We're going to get to that in a second. A couple other topics I want to touch on. We had the first bizarre situation with the pitch clock in the Red Sox Braves game, where the game ended with an automatic strike because the batter, Cal Conley, was not ready in time. So this was the batter violating the pitch clock.
Yeah.
And an automatic strike was called. And so the game ended in a tie. And everyone was freaking out and pissed. Yeah. And I loved it. It was awesome.
So a couple things. Now I want to talk about just the new rules in general and our first reactions to what we've seen so far in this first week of everything. I am so very glad that the umpires did that. And because this game doesn't matter. Who gives a shit? Let's make everybody aware that this is possible. Let's highlight this early on. Let's
I bet that was
someone needs
discussed.
to be a sacrificial. I'm sure it was. They need to sacrifice something and someone in the game to make this like, hey, God, by the way, we are going to do this. If your ass is not in that box with 8 seconds and the umpire gets a buzz, he's getting a buzzer, the Altuve buzzer. They should deem it as the Altuve buzzer, but he's getting the buzzer. So
branded.
The technology is there.
Sell merch.
It's like Scotch tape, the Altuve buzzer. He's got the buzz from the Altuve and the guy's not ready. It's a strike. That's it. If you feel it and you look not ready, strike. It needs to be like that. The umpires have to have that reaction. And I think that if we're showing that and telling the guys that this is a serious thing, this is not like a couple of years ago where you can put 1 foot out, put 1 foot in, like right. A-Rod. And get 8 warnings. That
whole batter needed to be ready rule that they never actually enforced was the biggest horseshit of all time.
There's now black and white.
I'm really happy that they're going to have to.
It's
enforce
a number.
this.
Yeah, it's clear now what the deal is. So. Yeah, I'm glad they did it early on. It shows everybody in baseball like will be enforced. So it's a good thing.
And people were freaking out over the spring training game, which doesn't mean crap, and they'll extra freak out if that ever happens in a actual game. I mean, this was literally the game on the line situation. If it's the 3rd inning and it's a nothing game and an automatic ball is called, like no one's probably going to care. But they have to continue to enforce it so that the players just get this ingrained in their mind. I have to be ready to pitch. I have to be ready to hit in this time. So it's not an issue in an October playoff game, because of course I do not want an October playoff game getting called because of freaking pitch clock. But I don't want that to even be the issue. I just want the pitcher to be ready and the batter to be ready to go in the time that they should be ready to go, so we don't have this problem ever again.
They're also going to be trained during the regular season so that come playoffs, it's not going to be a factor. And if you don't believe that in the playoffs they're going to have a little bit more leniency, they will. I promise you they will. And I think that's fine, because the whole point of the regular season and getting through the muscle memory and doing this is so that they get used to it. The flow of the game just becomes, part of their part of the way that they play baseball now. And that's the thing about this. Say what you want about these new rules. And I've argued, that I don't love a lot of the new rules. I still don't like the runner at second base, but a lot of these gameplay things I don't think is bad, because it's going to be a non-issue. The reason being is because the players are just going to get into this flow of playing the game that way, and you're not even going to notice it. I think that's the way it's going to happen. The more and more we see this by midseason, probably not even noticing it, because now the players are such in the rhythm that they know that they got to be in there, and their internal clock is going on this thing. It's just an adjustment for them, but I think they're going to pick it up pretty quick. And it does help. It helps the game flow. It helps everybody play. Pitching quick, getting up there, getting ready to compete, good thing. All of these things.
Yeah, I've never met anyone who's like, I wish baseball games were longer. So yeah, it's going to be good. PitchCom's also an important factor here, because PitchCom did improve pace of play last season. And I know not everyone used it, but more and more teams were picking it up as the season goes, and the technology is improving. Mm-hmm. That is also going to allow for the pitchers to get the signals quicker in the allotted time, is the PitchCom. And I know the Yankees were proponents of it. They adopted it early. So those two things combined, I think, should have a positive impact on the overall pace of play.
And the pitchers have the keyboard now too, so they can punch buttons to communicate if they need to. You could see it.
It's both ways.
On Severino's,
not just
it was
catcher.
On his belt, like it almost looked like it would bother you or something, but apparently not. It was. But you could see that he was using it, and yeah, there's the ability now. Now some of the other rules, like the bases and the throwing over, I'm still on this where I think this is going to be a much bigger deal than people are anticipating, and that we've seen even in the minor leagues. I think the numbers are going to be more improved. You have better base runners, you have better athletes, you have all these things in the major leagues. They're going to take advantage of this stuff. The fact that there's 4.5 inches from first base to second base, less to run, less to stretch, same thing with second to third, is a huge deal. It really is, because when we talked about this, I don't remember if I brought up this point. I don't think I did, but the pitching mound, the rubber to home plate, that distance did not change, correct? Did not change. Guys are not throwing harder than they were last year. I mean, collectively they're throwing a little harder, but that doesn't really matter. The catchers are going to have a similar, pop-up speed. They're going to have a similar throw down speed to second base. So the only thing that's changing is the distance between the bags, and the fact that the runners can now probably take bigger leads because they can anticipate when a ball is being thrown over to first base. Pitchers now don't even want to throw over that second time, because that second time, once you get to that, now the advantage significantly goes to the batter, because they know for a fact that if you throw over to first base and you don't get me out, I'm going to second base anyway. And if there's a situation where it's first and third, that guy ain't throwing over, because now if you don't get him at first base, you risk the balk, which means the runner on third base scores. So there's a lot of these new rules really put an emphasis on base running and base stealing. And some of these guys, and we're already seeing it. Volpe stole second, stole third base.
Well,
you're going to see the base paths go crazy this year.
You're going to get pitchers also forgetting, because it's been ingrained in their.
But that doesn't last very long. Like that's what they work out now. Come the season, first month of the season, that shit's going to be ingrained.
I bet there's going to be pitchers not forgetting that the rule exists, but they have because a lot of times pitchers would just throw over, not really in a serious attempt to get a guy out, just because they want to kind of reset, and they don't want to, maybe they didn't like the sign from the catcher, and they're like, I don't know if I want to throw the fastball, the curveball here. We've
seen it when guys are warming up just to stall a little bit more. Yeah.
I'm just going to throw over. And I think that'll still happen. That's like muscle memory for a lot of these guys. I'm just going to throw over. Oh shit, that was my second one, or that was my first one, and I didn't even that wasn't even a serious attempt to get him. So that's another interesting thing.
Well, and they're going to be enforcing the balk more too. They've talked about that.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things going against the pitcher and the catcher on the base path.
The balk is back. The balk is back.
We are going to see record lows, I think, in throwing, throwing out percentage for the catchers. Like you evaluating a catcher now to throw down to second base and catch a guy stealing. Only the elite guys are going to be throwing guys out because it's so much harder to do now. That 4.5 inches is a big deal. And I think that 4.5 inches is even bigger because of the fact that the guy can take a bigger lead off first base. We're going to see a lot of stolen bases this year. I promise you that.
Have the bases ever changed in the history of Major League Baseball before? Have they ever changed the size of the bases?
I don't know the answer to that.
History. I'm sure they have, right? It might have been 50 years ago, 80 years ago or something like that. But how long has the current base size, prior to this year?
There's other considerations though too, because they've raised the mound. The
mound was raised and lowered in the 60s,
yep.
In the late 60s, year of the pitcher, all that stuff. And then you adjust and you get used to it. And 4 years from now, no one's going to remember the base size was increased.
Right. But nothing is different from the pitcher to the catcher and the distance from home plate to second base. Yet there's inches on the front of the bag for the catcher. So you could,
1877. The bases have been 15 inches since 1877.
Wow.
That's basically the start of the game.
Someone who decided that size in what year 1877 deserves a lot of credit. That decision held the
Abner Doubleday.
Was it him?
I don't know. He invented the game.
I mean, that's a hell of a decision. I don't know how many decisions in the history of time have lasted that long.
You're saying that was the number one
that was
decision.
A fantastic decision. Yeah, just like 15 inches. I mean,
Abner Doubleday and his nerd minions created the game. They decided on the length, the size. I'm sure they tested stuff, what works, because just like the concept of 90 feet, right? It's like, that's just the right amount of distance where it's bang, bang plays. If it was 89 feet or 91 feet, it wouldn't be that way.
Well, guess what? That's what we just did. You just took off half of 4.5 inches. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. And again, the 4.5 inches to me is only part of the story. The 4.5 inches is only part of the story because the leads are going to be better. Here. The jumps are going to be better.
1860, they decided bases should be 17 inches by 14 inches. Rectangle bases. Why not circles? Why not octagons?
Because squares.
Isosceles triangle bases.
7-minute abs. Not 6 minute. There's no 6 minutes. 7-minute abs.
All right, we're going to do a World Baseball Classic segment in a bit. Gleyber Torres did a Q&A with The Athletic. Honestly, it was pretty vanilla, but a couple of things here. He talked about mentoring Peraza, which is cool.
In what way do we want him mentoring Peraza?
Yeah, probably not a lot of ways.
Defensive shortstop mentoring? Hitting in the major leagues mentoring?
Maybe hitting in the major leagues from 2018 to 2019.
Clutch moment. End of the game hitting. That's situational hitting. Gleyber, if we're looking at what Gleyber's been good at, Gleyber's got a good amount of walk-offs under his belt.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Give him that. They asked him obviously about his future, and he said the right things, but I do feel like Gleyber is the type of guy. I've criticized him for, I think he's mentally weak, and just like that's been evident in times where he's just had defensive lapses and they kind of snowball on him and things like that. But the contract and his uncertainty, I mean, he talked about how much he loves playing in New York and wants to stay here, but the Yankees have not even discussed a contract extension with him. And it might be getting to him a little bit. He also had that comment a couple weeks ago about being sad that they haven't approached him. I forget the exact, I think he was asked, like, have they approached you about a contract? And he just said, I wish. like, all right, dude. Sorry.
Yeah. Look, Gleyber's he's an average to good player. He's not what we all thought he was going to be.
Average to good.
He has moments where he's good. He's not what we all thought he was going to be. And that happens. So it's fine. It's really just like, hey, these guys are coming up hot behind you. You're not panning out the way that everybody thought you were. How does that feel? It's essentially what it is.
Right.
There's still an opportunity for him to get traded. These guys start shining even more. Who knows? He's still the guy that I circle as a potential. I know Logan is praying to his God every single day that IKF is the guy. But, I think Gleyber and IKF are probably the guys you circle.
I agree. All right, let's wrap up with a quick WBC segment, which starts next week. So they've got the way it's structured. It's pool play, and then if you advance out of your pool, then you go to the quarterfinals, semifinals, and championship. Kind of like how the World Cup, the World Cup pool play. The U.S. is in Pool C, along with Mexico, Colombia, Canada, and Great Britain. And then obviously the U.S. is the second highest odds to win the whole thing. Dominican Republic is first, and then Japan, Puerto Rico follow. And got a bunch of big name players playing in this. I think I read that the Angels have the most players out of any team playing. I think it was 19 players playing in the WBC, which seems crazy. And the top two from each pool advance. So what are you thinking about this? What are you thinking, Scott?
I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I love watching baseball when I think the major leagues of baseball probably have the worst baseball culture of all the cultures you see in Taiwan,
which is crazy because the U.S. has like the Little League World Series, and it's like there's a good baseball culture. Like every kid plays t-ball.
Let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase that. The major league crowd, the baseball culture, when you compare it to other countries and the way that they do it, it's just ruckus. And you go to the Dominican, you go to some of these Caribbean countries, but also you go to Japan, you go to Taiwan,
Korea,
like, insane. There's a show in the show, like everybody's singing songs, playing drums, doing all the things.
Baseball in Japan is the NFL.
Yeah. So when I see that in the WBC, it makes it's awesome. I think it's so much fun. I wish we could adapt more of that. And it's a great time. So I think the competition is also very good. And Dominican definitely, I think when you look at all of the players, has the best team. I think the USA is right there. And then, if you could get a couple pitchers to get hot, you could see some of these other guys sneak up. But it's between the Dominican and the US. Japan, you never know. And then the wild card is always, it's not as much this year or anymore as it used to be, but Cuba always used to be like, we don't know who they're going to throw. And that's still the case, but
El Duque is pitching for Cuba.
Yeah, that would be great. I would root for Cuba then. But if you see so many guys now defecting, that I don't think the talent is as much, or it's not as much of an unknown as well. So I think they're, not as much of a wild card as they used to be, but you never know. You get a couple guys that throw out, but I do think it's between the USA and Dominican.
This is going to be the Shohei Ohtani event. That's what this is going to be. That's what this is going to turn into nationally. If and when it gets press outside of like the baseball circles, it's going to be about Ohtani hitting and pitching. And I know that's an old story to everyone, but that's still like a story to the NBC Today show and shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it should be. It's a huge deal. The guy's a freak. That does two things that are arguably the two hardest things to do in sports at a very high level. The guy's a freak. So I'm glad he's getting that shine, because it puts a good spotlight on what I believe is the greatest sport in the world.
And then for the U.S., we got Andy Pettitte, pitching coach, Ken Griffey Jr., hitting coach, Brian McCann is a bench coach. Higgy is going to be playing it's the only Yankee on the U.S. team. And former Yankee great Lance Lynn is pitching.
Their pitching is interesting when you see Wainwright, Lynn, Mikolas, Merrill Kelly.
The Lizard King. Remember when I wanted to trade for the Lizard King?
Yeah, you really wanted to trade you wanted him badly.
Mm-hmm. You wanted him badly. 18 or 19. I was like, get a package.
The Dominican's got, Marlins, Sandy Alcantara, nasty. I mean, if he pitches well, I mean, their lineup is disgusting. Absolutely. And so is the US. Like their offense, both teams, you could put 1A, 1B. But yeah, if Darvish gets hot and Ohtani get hot as pitchers with Japan, that's going to be a problem. They could have two, top pitchers. I don't think Puerto Rico has the pitching.
I don't know how you could bet against the Dominican with Robbie Cano and Gary Sanchez on the roster. I mean, come on.
2 all-time greats.
Yep. All right. So who are you betting on? Who's your pick to bet on? I mean, obviously we want the U.S. to win because we're country homers. But if you had to put money, who would you put the money on?
If I had to put money, well, if I'm trying to make money, I'm not going.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not going Dominican or the U.S. because if you look across the sports books, they're plus 200, plus 250 in that range. You know, where's the value? I think if you're looking at FanDuel, the values come up much quicker at probably Puerto Rico or Venezuela.
Venezuela seems like pretty good. I mean, Puerto Rico's plus 2,100 on FanDuel, but Venezuela at plus 1,000 on both Caesars and FanDuel. And then you look at the roster: Acuna, Miguel Cabrera, who's obviously just there as a figurehead, but Altuve. So I mean, Gleyber, obviously,
David Peralta
on Venezuela. Peralta, your boy.
Gleyber,
Sal Perez. So a lot of great players for Venezuela. Do I think they're going to win? No, because they're not better than the Dominican or probably even the U.S. But just value wise, I feel like
Puerto Rico's got the best value on if you want to bet on this and you are looking for good odds, Caesars right now has Puerto Rico at plus 650 and FanDuel has plus 2,100. So go throw your money on Puerto Rico right now. That's where the money is.
All right, that will wrap it up for today's show. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching. Again, go check out Scott's Twitter. He's going to tweet the link to the foundation.
We'll put it in the description in the podcast also.
That Bevan's running the race to raise money for. And we'll talk to you guys next week.